Hey everyone, welcome to the latest episode of this show. Today, my guest is Michael Duffy, who is a founder of Don'tGetHacked.com. He's also a cybersecurity coach, a YouTube wizard, and a pretty fascinating person. I followed you for some time on Facebook, I think, also a little bit on LinkedIn, and glad to finally have a conversation with you, sir. So, welcome to the show and feel free to introduce yourself.
Well, thank you for the invite, Danny. Yeah, it's kind of funny how we meet people, right? Because I've had people meet me in person and they said they were following me for a long time, and sometimes it's vice versa. So, um, thank you for the introduction. My name is Michael Duffy. I've been in technology consulting, technology coach, whether that's on-site coaching for technology in a business or if I'm doing it remotely with business owners and C-suite executives around the world. I've been doing IT consulting for over 20 years. So it's been a while. I got started with technology in like 1993, so before the internet, before cloud services, before hackers. So I've seen computers come and go and how they've changed over the last couple of decades. There's many other IT tech guys like me out there, but I think I've got quite a variety of experience with different businesses like um, oil and gas and doctors and lawyers and just whatever type of professional businesses you would find in large a large city. I've got Sorry, my alarm's going off, reminding me about this podcast. So I ran a franchise for like 16 years, and then when I realized I kind of outgrew the franchise business model, and I'm like, you know what? I have friends, I've got business owners who request my services from all around the world. I really just need to start my own consulting gig and see where that leads me. So I started Don't Get Hacked in August 2021, and it's 2025 now, so it's like 4 years into building a brand new business, brand new customer list. Like I went from a franchise to starting from scratch, so zero customer list, and I'm like, hey, I got to get onto Facebook and LinkedIn and all these social medias and really introduce myself to people who've never met me before and simply just offer to help them with their technology. And your name gets around. Word of mouth referrals get around because although we think in reality, it's kind of like a small world. Like everybody knows everybody. So if you do good work for people, the word of mouth gets around. And if you do bad work for people, the bad word of mouth gets around too. So it's kind of interesting this winter. Um, I travel between Canada, Dubai, and right now we've been in the US for the winter, and I'll run into people. They're like, "Hey, I know you from this person and this person," and then they tell me to stay away from somebody. I'm like, "Well, this is interesting." And then you kind of hear a couple weeks later, you hear the same good stuff about people and bad stuff about people, and I'm like, I don't even know who these people are, but the bad word of mouth is getting around, right? So,
Yeah,
so
that's
yeah,
very
4 years into building the Don't Get Hacked cybersecurity business, and you mentioned YouTube. We kind of just fell into that because I've been helping podcasters for about 4 years build out their podcasts and help them get into the discipline of recording regularly. And then we fell into the YouTube business as kind of a side gig from that, and that's kind of taking off. So at the end of the day, technology coach.
Tell me about your lifestyle. You mentioned being a digital nomad, and I see
Hmm.
you everywhere around from the deep south to Dubai to Canada, and you seem to be everywhere, which is super
Well,
cool.
I've it was born out of necessity because you're in Florida. Florida's kind of an interesting place in North America. I know a lot of people in Florida, and the digital nomad just was built out of necessity. I'm from Canada. COVID was rough in Canada. I realized when I left my franchise business in 2021 that if I wanted to be in the future a business owner who there was no borders, and I could work from the beach, I could literally work from anywheres. I had to remove myself from the local business scene and go travel. And I already had customers internationally, but like we decided that okay, I have friends in the U.S. When I had my former franchise, we had franchisees all across the USA. So right now I'm in Mississippi. We had franchisees down here in Mississippi. So I've been to Mississippi like a decade ago. So it's not my first time down here, but it just how it worked out this winter. But out of necessity, I was already during COVID. I was like, I'm going to start this business from scratch. No, I was restricted from travel during COVID, so the U.S. border was shut down. I couldn't really, if I wanted to drive across my own, if I wanted to get across my own country, I had to drive. I was not allowed on a plane at that point. So I was like, you know what? I am going to build out the business, go wherever the clients are, find staff to take care of my local city's Calgary, Alberta. It's a city of 1.5 million people in Alberta, Canada. So it's kind of like the Texas of Canada. So we started just traveling and we're like, okay, as long as I've got employees in Calgary, I can travel to these other cities, do these networking events, sponsor trade shows, sponsor people's events, and just get out and meet and see, meet business owners in Chicago and meet business owners in New York and New Jersey, down here in Mississippi, go to Dubai, just meet business owners all around the world, figure out what their technology issues are, figure out what their cybersecurity issues are, and just kind of watch all the online coaches at a distance, right? Because you're like, okay, there's all the business owners like myself, maybe like you, like we're all following these online coaches, and you're just like, okay, people go to funnel hacking events, and people go to these conference, and next conference. There's business owners going all over the world. They've got businesses. How do I meet these people and find out what their challenges are with technology in 2022, 2023, 2024, going into the future, and find them solutions? And then that way I'm meeting new people, traveling, adding to my skill set. And then when we do have enough business in one particular city, I'll hire employees in that city. We'll get set up on Google Maps and we'll just kind of start building our worldwide consulting empire at that point, because I find that business owners, they like to have local support, but they also like, instant r- remote access to experts. That's what I'm building right now. So yes, you see me in Dubai. I went and set up I was invited over to the Middle East in 2023, and I went to a conference out there, and then we found a business owner who had been hacked, and we helped her. And then we were invited to set up an office, so we set up an office in Dubai, December 2023. So we're kind of on our going on. We're technically in our second year over there. So I've got an employee over there. We've got a team over there. But at the same time, you can advertise and market yourself to the best of your ability. It doesn't mean everybody says yes to the solutions or the pricing. So we're like, okay, keep developing our Canadian market, develop this market overseas, and then be open to any inquiries we get in the US. And I'm traveling to Nashville on Thursday because I've got an event in Nashville all weekend from people that I've, randomly met at an event last year. So I say, hey, if you send me an invite, I'll show up, and then we will, continue to have conversations with business owners and just find out what technology, cybersecurity issues that they have. Like business now in 2025 is so much different than it was 20 years ago when I started. And I find that business owners are more savvy now with technology, but they also get themselves into more problematic situations. And then I'm like, okay, you know, people are using this particular technology or these cloud services more, but they don't have good passwords. They don't have anything documented. They have no backups. And then when something happens in their business will literally just explode and they lose money, they lose clients, they just kind of lose everything because they're not documenting things as they go. So, it's interesting. So, yes, digital nomad, I do travel. It's really out of necessity. And I'm at that age where I'm not going to complain about like long drives and flights where, if I was a little bit older, I might be complaining about that stuff. So,
I also noticed you often say we when you refer to your business. So do you have a team or what is the
I do
structure
have
of your?
I do have a team. So, I have technicians in Calgary. I've got technicians in Dubai, and I have a whole bunch of people in the United States that they want to work because they come from Dell, HP, all these big. There's been a lot of people laid off. I've got a lot of American friends who've been laid off from the tech sector in the last 2 or 3 years, and they're penetration testers, they're cloud specialists. There's a lot of people looking for work, and we are literally out there every day at networking events in the US. And like we're just out at events meeting people and saying, okay, but there's a lot of startup businesses out there, right? So um, I have a huge team who wants to work, and we got business in Canada, we got business over in Dubai, we got a little bit of business here, and I'm trying to help my um, friends here in the USA get back into the workforce. And they're using my marketing, they're using my brand name because it's easier just to leverage my name, my systems, my call center, my experience, and then they can be the local technicians in your city. I got friends here in Mississippi, I've got a couple in Washington, I got a couple in New Jersey, I got a couple in Michigan, all guys who've been, retirement for the last year or two who want to go back to work. So I got a ton of technicians who want to work for me.
Makes sense, and it's a very interesting business model that seems to be working for you. And on this note, curious from the financial standpoint, travel
Hmm.
requires a lot of expenses, and
Well, yeah, I'm not saying I'm not. This is it's super challenging. This is why we decided to like we moved out of our house last May because I knew that between um salaries, expenses, like literally bills in three different currencies. I got Canadian bills, I've got bills over in Dubai, and I got bills in the United States, right? So it's just this constant um finances are always fun, especially when you're a business. When I had a franchise, it was way different because we had an established name, but the financial structure was different. So I had a lot of franchise fees before, so that kind of limited the growth of the business. And here with this new business I have, some months are great, some months aren't, and you're like, oh, and the months that aren't great, you're like, well, what did we stop doing 6 months ago? Or is it there was also the US election, which really doesn't affect me that much, but affects business owners here with their budgets and stuff like that. And then like right now in Dubai, I know March in Dubai is gonna suck because it's Ramadan, and even though they say Ramadan does not affect business, people aren't really working. They're fasting all day. They're fasting for a month straight, right? So there's still pitching going on and quotations going on, but I don't really find there's no networking events going on in Dubai in March. Like it's just weird. Like so it's kind of it's interesting because I know with every city every in North America, every city's kind of got a different economy. It depends on, we do consulting, so I just find that spring breaks a factor. Like November to February, like after U.S. Thanksgiving, things really slow down for Christmas. They'll come back in the spring, but then you got this kind of a soft spot during a slow spot during spring break, and then things will ramp up until July, and then July to August is usually dead. Then September, October, like so. North America kind of works on that type of cycle, and if you look at your cash flow, it almost I don't have a huge ecom business. We're not doing millions. We're in the six figures, but expenses versus income every month's different. Startup is you know, and then it's kind of it's travel's not cheap. You can do it very economically. I'm not flying first class to Dubai. I know a lot of people who do fly first class, and I'm like, okay, I know where your business is at versus what we're doing, but of course, when I'm going to Dubai, it's my both my wife and I have like the corporations there. I've got salaried employees. My wife and I are a salaried employee, but since we don't live there, we have to go back every 6 months. And we usually don't go at the same, right now, we're not going at the same time just because we don't have a house there. Airbnbs, hotels, things start to add up. So you just do it as economical as possible. And then you're like, okay, what works for marketing and networking and what doesn't work, and then but you build some really strong relationships. So some relationships you're like, this didn't really quite go the way I expected it to, or I'm like, they're not ready, or it's going to be another couple months or another year. I just have to keep following up with people. And then other relationships you're like, okay, this is going faster than I thought. It's not what I expected. But then in business you have to figure out everybody you're communicating with. You have to figure out their personality type, right? Because we think there's like four personalities, but there's really 16 personalities. And you're like, okay, the longer you're in business, the longer you're in sales, you're like, okay, this communication went well with this particular business and it didn't go, and now I have to go sit down on LinkedIn, and hopefully people have profiles, and I go look at their profile. I got this one tool from one of my friends. It it breaks down what personality type of person is and how you should communicate with them. And you're like, okay, I see what some people like aggressive sales, some don't like aggressive sales, some people don't like it slow, some people like it fast. It's just like, okay, it culturally it gets a little bit different too between Canada, USA, and Dubai. So finances are finances. We just have to find a way to borrow money, pay off stuff, take loans, pay off other things. We're all bootstrapped. We're not borrowing. We're not. I'm not on. I don't have any venture capital. Nobody's investing in me yet. So that's one of those future things where we'll see what we need in the future and go from there. So
Hmm. So you are in the trenches. The whole business is
every day,
dependent.
every
Yep.
day, every day on the trenches, and this is why it's always nice. As I said, technology support in 2025 is way different than it was 20 years ago, and I'm open to other income sources. Like we kind of fell into this YouTube thing, and it works well. But then I'm like, how do you pitch to business owners that they need to fix their uh, YouTube channel and actually show up properly? Because a lot of businesses out there kind of left it, kind of left their YouTube channel to die, and it's just I'm like, I don't know. For me, I when I go to look up a business on the internet, I'm looking at Google, I'm looking at YouTube. I was like, okay, I see how you show up in the number one and number two search engine. Then when I go to your social media, you got this completely different personality. So then I was like, I wonder who's doing the social media, because it's obviously they're not taking care of the YouTube, right? So
Would you recommend this lifestyle of a digital nomad and a business owner to other people?
I know it's not going to be for everybody because a lot of people don't like uncertainty, but really they're likely not in well, they're likely not an entrepreneur if they don't like uncertainty, because you get the freedom to literally do what you want every day. Because I've been self just remember I've been self-employed since 2005. So like 20 years. I was self-employed before that, but I still had a full-time. I've been without a salaried job since 2005, and my wife's been without a salaried job since 2010. So we're 15 years into self-employment, fully self-funded, self-motivated. Some years it's super easy. It's not been easy since 2021. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it for people because I got to take a lot of risk. I got to borrow a lot of money, pay it all back, borrow a lot of money, pay it all back. Some months we have great sales, like stupid great sales, and other months, nothing works. And you're like, wait, well, okay, and customers cancel on you. And then it's like, okay, this is why I don't want to be reliant on business in one geographic location because I know, well, the Canadian economy's been sucky for a couple of years. But then, of course, I got friends in the US who say there's good potential here, but they haven't really been employed for a year or two. And then Dubai is busy, busy, busy. But how do you get a piece of that pie? So we like to travel. And before COVID, we were traveling all the time, like um, trip to the US every year, trip to Mexico every year, like usually three big trips per year, which may have been business, may have been personal. Um, but now it's all business. Like I'm usually not going to a city, a new place, unless I'm going to meet somebody for a business meeting or multiple business meetings or whatever. Yeah, there's going to be a personal part, a pleasure part of that trip, but it's usually we're going there for a certain thing to meet some because you can do a lot of this stuff online. You can do a lot of Zoom calls, you can do FaceTime calls, but it's not the same as being in a friend's city, having them show you around, going out to their favorite coffee shop, their favorite restaurant, having them show you around, and then saying, okay, hey, I know you do technology support. I know you do this. I know you do this. What should we do in this city for business? And I was like, well, do you want to, cash only bit? Like, you got money for real estate? Do you have money for this? Do you have money for this? Because I'm like, IT consulting and being digital nomad, it's not the business type for everybody, but some people like to be real estate investors and they got the cash flow to do that. And they still travel and they're still a digital nomad. So, um, I didn't want to really have any. I've always been tempted to do brick and mortar stores and stuff like that, but then at the same time, I'm like, you're still kind of reliant on people coming to, doing the marketing in a local city and having that traffic come to your brick and mortar store. Where consulting, no matter what type of consulting you're doing, coaching, financial consulting, stock market consulting. I've got friends who do crypto and day trading consulting. They're all doing it over Zoom and I'm like, wow, you guys, this is. I help people make sure their PC and Macs work, and then make sure their emails work. And now we've built this, multiple person team who does YouTube accounts. So I'm learning new stuff every day, and I was like, wow, I just be it'd be nice to be a little bit more financially stable with it. But I'm like, we're 4 years into one brand, I'm 2 years into another brand. I'm wearing a different. You introduced me with Don't Get Hacked Cybersecurity, but I'm wearing my Mupo Entertainment sweater today, and Mupo's our podcasting business in New Jersey. So, which I do a lot of technical consulting for them. My podcasts are over there, but I've taken a little bit of a break from my podcast just because the YouTube business has been kind of growing on the side, and at the end of the day, no matter whatever as a business owner, whatever tasks you take on, you have to train all your staff to do those tasks. And sometimes that's a challenge. Like today, I spent an hour stepping somebody through one task, and you're like, that's an easy task, Mike. And I'm like, I know it sounds like it should be an easy task, but in order for somebody to be, you know, successful with learning something new themselves, sometimes you have to put in a couple hours to do so they understand how one particular task works. But then they know how to do that, and then they can go help other people do it. right? And I'll still have to record a video and document that as a standard operating procedure in our business. But this is the second time I've had to train somebody on that particular task. So I'm like, okay, I need to make this so much more easy for them. And oh, wait, life of a business owner. Worked all day long, 7 days a week. Yeah, you can go to fun destinations. Like I went my last trip to Dubai, I was there for a month. I was in nice hotels for a couple days, really cheap Airbnb for like 2 weeks. But then I was meeting new people. I got friends in both I got friends all over that country now. And they're like, teach us how to be successful in business. I'm like, you got to get started and you got to go through all the pain and all the months you're poor and you're super poor and you're broke. And then you might have a couple great months and then you kind of catch up and you're like, okay. And then you realize how much effort and planning it went in to have you had those great months just because you suffered so much. And you're like, wow. You're like, I understand I need to suffer to have really great months, but there needs to be it'd be nice to plan that out better and spread it across 12 months rather than a couple slow months, a couple great months, a couple slow months. But I've not figured out the hang of that yet.
Yep, makes sense. And this will be the final question, but I really want to ask it. Um, how do you combine your lifestyle and business with being with your family? From what I've seen, you guys are basically traveling together. You mentioned your wife is part of the business. So
Hmm.
how do you do both? And are you happy with where you are uh, having this balance between them?
Well, well, as I said, the digital nomad life is born out of necessity. We were traveling a lot before COVID, not able to do anything. I think the US border opened May 2023. So for 3 years, I could not get into the States. So as soon as the border opened, we were already traveling in an RV, but we weren't living in an RV at that point. And I'm just like, you know what? If we're gonna do this business and meet people, we need to meet more. We need to meet as many people as possible. So how do we do that? Well, I either travel by myself, which gets really lonely. There's an expense and there's time, and then you get lonely, and then you're just like, okay, well, we just started traveling together. So my daughter's been to Dubai. She lived in Dubai with us January to March last year. The challenge, I don't have a visa for her to live there longer than 30 days. So we had to pay a penalty because she outstayed her 30-day visitor visa. Um, that was just a little bit of we didn't get her business we got her business set up in Dubai, but there was some uncertainty about it. And then rather than getting her a visa to stay there, I hired employees and I paid for their visas to stay in Dubai. So I think the only way to do this lifestyle's doable is if you travel together. Again, I went off to Dubai by myself for a month this year. I came back, my wife went for 2 weeks. Our goal was to Canada's cold 6 months a year, so we're like, okay, if we live in an RV and we're traveling across North America, we can do 6 months in Canada in the summertime. We're factoring into it, what are we going to do in the winter? So this winter we decided okay, the USA, we can do up to 180 days, but we're also going back from the USA to Dubai. So we thought, hey, we'll see if we can cut it really. We'll see if we can spend all winter in the U.S., 6 months in the U.S., go back to Canada, go off to we still got to go to Dubai every 6 months to keep that business alive over there. So I think the only way to really do it is together because I don't know, my kid's 12. I don't know. I meet a lot of people. I meet some people who they travel without their families, and I'm like, I do not. I can control my environment with with the family around me, right? I'm like, okay, here's what we do today, here's what we do tomorrow. We're gonna get up, we're gonna go to the pool, we're gonna go eat. My daughter's fully homeschooled. If anybody watching this, the reason we're able to do this, my daughter's been homeschooled her whole entire life. She's not gone to traditional school. I follow a bunch of business coaches, Grant Cardone, Tony Robbins. I follow a lot of people. None of them put their kids into school. All their kids have only ever been homeschooled. And I kind of that idea was also suggested to me by some of my clients who are doctors and lawyers. You're like, do not put your kids in school. Put them only homeschool them. And I'm like, okay. So I've had that advice from early on in my career was to always homeschool. But then my wife wanted to do that. And then with COVID, we're just like, there's no point putting her in school because we don't agree with any of these COVID lockdown rules. But um, so we travel all together, and it's not easy, but we weren't really happy living in we built our dream house in 2015, 2016. Like we moved out of the city, moved into the country, built our dream house. But there's like this phenomenon called like the 7-year itch. Right? My wife and I, being married for 18 years, we've realized every apartment we've ever rented, condo we've owned, or house we've ever owned, we've lived in it for 7 years and then moved out. And we didn't realize that until looking at this digital nomad lifestyle. And we're like, oh, wait, actually, every 7 years we've moved. It's been a huge move every 7 years. So, how long is this going to work out? I have no idea. Um, the winter worked out in the US, except I left my wife in Gulf Coast of Mississippi, and it snowed for the first time in 100 years. I don't know if you experienced that over in Florida, but
Oh yeah, I did.
she
I
was not
did.
happy with me. Uh,
11 inches of snow, like the biggest snowfall in history of the city. It's
I know
crazy.
my friends in Biloxi are like, you brought the snow with you, and I'm like, but there's so many more snowbirders down here this winter as well. I learned back there's more than normal there's like double the amount of snowbirds down here from Canada right now. So I was like, well, this is kind of interesting. Everybody kind of there's more, and did everybody hope that Trump is going to win? Um, I don't know, this lifestyle is not for everybody, but we like Mississippi. We weren't even planning to be in Mississippi. We are supposed to be in Florida. My goal was Florida Keys. As soon as hurricane season, I was on a stage in Delaware in November, but we broke down in Chicago. And then I went off to Delaware. I went and hung out at my office in New Jersey for about 2, 3 weeks. Then my wife's like, it's time to come back to Chicago. I got back to Chicago right before Thanksgiving. Then we waited till December 2nd. We towed ourselves down and we lucked out. Like we're like 3-minute walk from the beach, right from the Gulf of Mexico right now. So it worked out. But that's life as a business owner. You know, we broke down. We were stuck in Chicago for a month. It wasn't miserable. It could have been much worse, but we didn't have water hooked up. We were using we got a friend in Chicago. He let us park our RV in front of alongside his house for a month. And it was getting cold in Chicago. They were miserable. Then this is our U.S. winter vacation. We're stuck in Chicago in the cold months, and then, we're like, wait a minute, we can just tow ourselves, but we have to wait for hurricane season to be over, and then we've been here ever since. So, um, it's not for digital nomads, not for everybody, but I was inspired to do it because there's a bunch of people online who are digital nomads, and I braced myself. I went and watched all their videos, and these people there's usually digital nomads, like some live in RVs, but a lot of them are literally flying. They're either Canadian, American, or wherever they're from, and they're literally flying to new countries around the world and just living there as long as their visitor visa allows them. So sometimes it's 30 days, sometimes it's 90 days. I think that would be way more stressful than this because we're we're hauling ourselves around, but of course we're kind of restricted to Canada, USA, and Mexico. Well, I guess we can go further south, which we've been looking at, but um, this we've got a home. We got 2 bedrooms. We got 2 bathrooms. There's an indoor kitchen. There's an outdoor kitchen. So it is expensive, but I'm like, if you were flying around and staying in an Airbnb, Airbnbs and hotels would be more expensive than what I'm doing with this. So, and I got the freedom. I've got my own vehicle now. I can drive around. We're going off to Nashville on Thursday. Again, it's not for everybody, but my wife and I have also been married a really long time, almost 2 decades now. If you got a like a it just depends on your relationship status and who's in your your family unit. I don't know if I'd be able to do it with more than one kid, but we're also hauling around 3 dogs, and they're big dogs. We make it work.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Michael, for everything you shared, for your insights, your inspiration. It was my pleasure to have you on today, and thank you again for everything you shared.
No, thank you for the invite, and I still got to come visit you in person before I roll my trailer down the road somewhere.
Absolutely.